Hello, everyone, and welcome to Q&A with Qlik. Today, we're going to be answering questions about analytics app development. I'd like to introduce myself. My name's Troy Rainey. I largely work helping put together webinars and helpful videos like this one. We've got a great expert panel for you today. Ola, why don't you quickly tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ola Roxandal, and I work at Qlik as a technical content developer. I've been with the company for almost 10 years and been training and delivering analytics content since the beginning.
Great. And Patrick.
Yep, my name is Patrick Lundblad. I'm a lead product designer. So I do the functional design when it comes to the analytics area. I've been here since 2013.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Well, when you registered, you had an opportunity to submit some questions ahead of time, so we'll get started with those. But if you have any questions in mind, you can go ahead and submit them in the Q&A tool. First question. Can we make mini charts or any type of chart inside tables
Yep.
in order to
So
create a scorecard type report?
yep, so it was one of the pre-submitted ones. So I had some time today to just build a quick demo. I'll share my screen. We can see it. So I'm going to use the new straight table. You can use it also in the old table. So you have a couple of different options. One of the most simple ones, which I haven't done here, would be just to color the background. So you would just go in here, you would just use a color expression for either the background or for the text, if it's above, below a certain value, if it's a certain category, and so on. If you want to use something like mini charts, etc., we have two options you can choose between. So here in the representation area in this case, it has to be a measure because it's something that has to be measurable. And on the measure, you can say, do you want to have it represented as normal text, which is what you can get when you just create it. You can have image, but you can also have an indicator. Indicator is just a circle or some other type of symbols. You can go in here and you can pick what kind of symbol you want to have. Checkboxes, plus signs, whatever. And you can also assign a color based on a threshold. In this case, I'm just using 2 different runs, but I think we support up to 10 different symbols and colors. And if you want to do something with a mini chart, you just pick the option representation mini charts. You have to pick a dimension. Normally, I would say try to pick something that is time or something based, because that's what most people are coming to when it comes reading these things in here. So in this case, I've picked years and I just picked the measure and I can represent it using bars, the normal bars next to each other. I have some settings around if I want to have it going from 0 or from other values. I can have simple dots in here. I can have some spark lines. And I can also have a positive, negative. In this case, it's only positive values, but it separates, like you can have the positive and negative stack and so on. So there's a couple of options in the straight table for doing scorecards and using graphics in there. If you want to go really fancy, I know Patrick Nordstrom has a couple of tutorials on how to use the image option. And then you can do a data URI in there, and you can pretty much draw anything using SVG code in there together with your data. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great. Next question. I am struggling with creating a canonical or master calendar. Is there an easy way to do this? Probably not easy, but Ola, you got some ideas?
Yeah, so canonical dates is a challenging subject. That's when we have multiple calendars, but we still want our application to react or our selections to react to both calendar values and then kind of aggregate the correct value. So if we have, for example, an order date and a shipment date, and we create a date field in the application, if we don't create that date field through a link table, connecting these dates to the rest of the data model, we'll have errors in our aggregations when we aggregate on year and month, especially when it's a different order date than it is a shipment date. There are a couple of ways to solve this. You could create separate master calendars, limiting some of the functionality that you can do within the data model, but it would work. But then you're kind of limited to creating more advanced expressions inside of the application. It's probably the most simple way to solve it. Or you could create a link table, as I said, where we define the relation between the different dates and then the rest of the data model. A little bit more complicated, but there's a great video tutorial that Mike Torello released about 3 weeks ago on YouTube. We'll share the link with you, and we have it up on screen there as well, where you can view and get a really simple and easy explanation. And there's also a link inside of the text in the YouTube video, which gives you access to a sample app and on Qlik community and some more information as well, where you can download the app and import it into your own environment. And you'll see a PDF transcript also of the live stream.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. All right. Next question. Could you address how to use themes?
Sure. So themes is a way of creating a brand identity when it comes to your dashboard, sheets, charts, etc. So I don't know what in particular with the question. Like, do we talk about theme management? Do we talk about theme creation? Do we talk about theme usage? Theme creation, there are some sites out there that you can use to create the different themes. Theme management depends on how you set up management within your company around content and so on. But when it comes to using themes, if it's that type of question, so themes are available up here in the settings panel. So depending, I think, on which version you're on-prem, or if you're on cloud, it might look a little bit different where it's positioned right now. So it's in the settings panel. And then you can go in here to appearance, and you see that you have a theme selector in here. So in this case, I have Sense Horizon, which is the latest theme that we have added. You can see that we, from Qlik, have added 4 themes so far. And we have a couple of custom themes that other people on this tenant have uploaded. So just switching the theme in here, you can see that the colors back here that I picked before have changed because I'm using the index of a color palette. So I said when I set it up, I can easily go in here and can show you. So if we go in here to the indicators, you can see here that when I click in here, and if I pick any one of these values in here on the palette, then I'm getting the index set in here so that in this case it's yellow colors. And when I had it before, it was a blue and red one. But if I go in here and if I pick an actual value such as, yeah, maybe not something white, let's do C5, C5, C5. Yeah, something gray in here. Now if I go back in here and if I switch the theme again, you can see here, zoom is everywhere on my screen. So I go to Sense Horizon in here, and when I switch it, you can see that I still have the gray color because it's hard-coded as X value compared to the other one, which is an index. So that's the main thing to think about when it comes to themes. Do put the colors in a similar order so that you know what you're switching between. So I'll give you something that is a little bit horrible, which is something that we have developed, but I'm a little bit, yeah, it's not good. If I pick the white color here in almost every theme, it's a white color in most of the other Qlik Sense themes. But I believe that if you go to Sense Breeze and click here, then the white color is actually in another position. So you could get some cases where, for example, you select the white color and you switch theme and it's a black color instead. Could be good if you're doing a dark and light theme, but it could be horrible if you're just thinking about font colors and so on. So that's something important to think about when it comes to theming. Use a palette where similar colors are positioned in a similar position. Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, next question. Sounds like it's from a partner. Could you help convince a requester that no app should mirror a complete ERP system as it will become unnecessarily slow?
Yeah. So a great question, and it kind of falls back a little bit on differentiating what Qlik and as a BI tool and analytics tool is, and what an ERP system is. Now you can do a lot of things with Qlik. It's just something I want to say in the beginning. You could build with the help of Writeback, build a basic CMS system, and I mean, looking back at history, I've seen it being used as you can create Pac-Man inside a Qlik as well. So there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do, but focusing on what differentiates it from an ERP system and why we shouldn't rebuild the system inside. Well, a Qlik is optimized for analytics, not for replicating a transactional system. So loading a full ERP data system with millions of transaction rows and dozens of tables will cause slow refreshes, especially if you mirror the data model from the ERP system into Qlik. Qlik is good at working with optimized data model more towards but with another type of data scheme, looking at fact tables and dimension tables instead. So it's better in this case to look at the key data from the ERP system and then rebuild a data model optimized for Qlik, and then work with some other optimization tools that we can use inside of the application.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great. And
yeah,
there's a lot of options for that if you're trying to figure out how to best optimize your apps,
yeah.
your analytics apps.
And I think there's another pre-submitted question that's coming a little bit later where I'll go more into detail on some of these exact things that you can do to optimize your application.
Great. All right, well, next question. How to control the size of charts available in the tooltip chart. So those tooltip charts.
So currently we only support size small, medium, and large, where we put in the pixel size. If it's something that you're interested in having expanded, giving more options so on, my recommendation is going to ideation and submitting a request in there for customizable sizes when it comes to charts and tooltips. And Troy is going to show you where ideation is on our community webpage.
Yeah, if you go to Qlik Community, it's under the Support tab, Ideation, and here's where you can see all the feature requests and improvement suggestions that other customers and partners have recommended. So you can find those, vote on those if you'd like to see it actually included in the product. And if you're not finding what you're looking for, you can submit your own idea. It's a great location to give us some feedback about the products. And I know our product management team definitely considers your input as a customer very highly when it comes time to make improvements. So I'll include that link here. And next question. We had the request to show the data that was the current state at the month selected in regards to dimensions of 4 out of 13 tables. This blows up the app immensely. Is there any sly way to do it more performance friendly?
Yes, there is. And I know that there are previous sessions that we have talked about this on as well. But basically, what you need to do is you need to create flags inside of the script that identifies the data that you want to show. And then, with the help of set analysis, create visualizations and tables where we show the specific data that we've identified in the data model. Could be non-dynamically as well, but optimally in the data model in the calendar to be able to reduce the amount of data that's showing up. And then we can also use aggregations of the data inside of the script as well. So if we're at a very, if we're looking at a very detailed row level, we could hopefully aggregate up that one level to increase the performance together with the set analysis and the
Yeah,
flag
and I'll
fields.
just pull up the link to this, but this is a great demonstration of how what set analysis is and how to apply it. So I'll include that link.
Yeah, and I think we talk about flag fields there as well, which is
Yeah,
something that we want to combine this with.
great. All right, next question. Uh, how to handle both granular and summary data to be in one app without exceeding the size limitations in Qlik Cloud?
Yeah, and this kind of falls into both of the optimization questions that we talked about before. So we're going to give some tips and tricks here, generally on how to work with application and data model optimization inside of Qlik. So the first thing that we need to do is look at the data model and move towards a star schema. So build a data model either before you load the data into Qlik or inside a Qlik that looks at fact tables, which has transactions, and then dimension tables, which has the data, and then you connect those together. That increases the performance. You can also aggregate transactional data into summary tables, especially if we're looking at historic data or if we're looking at data a little bit back in time, where we might not need to go into the specific row level transaction. In that case, we can aggregate that data and show summarizations instead. Only load the granular data that's necessary for the row level analysis. That is looking at, when we look at the row level data, just load the actual data inside of that table. That's interesting thing for the application that we're building. You can also predefine selected dimensions inside of Qlik. So when a user opens up an application, for example, we've already selected a date, or we selected a product or an area, which makes the data set that we're looking at a little bit smaller. And then when it comes to actual building the application, work with incremental reloads of the data. So when we go in and load new data into the application, we don't go into the data source and load all of the rows, but just the rows that have been added since last time. We also want to avoid loading unused fields, and that kind of goes into what I talked about before on the row level analysis, just to load the necessary data. Then we can also store or use we want to use the in-memory data that we use in the application that we need to have in memory to be able to increase the performance. But if we want another way to look at historic data and the aggregated tables, we can also do an on-demand app generation on that to avoid exceeding app limit sizes. And then if our app consistently exceeds our limit, we can also look at the licensing that we have. So if we are on capacity, we could also look at maybe splitting that app into summary versus detail, or looking at large apps as well as a potential solution for that as well. So yeah, those are some tips and tricks.
There's a lot of options there, but that's nice to know. I want to shift over. Is there the next question? Is there another way to adjust the column order in the new straight table besides drag and drop? Having some time-consuming things with lots of columns doing that manually.
So in the new straight table currently, there is no other option in the UI. It's been something that's been brought up, so we have it on the idea section, and you can, as I said, go into ideation and submit a request in there. I've talked to other customers and partners who have used APIs to easily move the columns around. That might be a bit overkill, but yeah, it's something we know about that is considered a usability issue and something we want to improve upon.
Great. All right. The next question. I would like some inspiration for how to build apps. Is there anywhere I can view example applications?
Yeah, maybe you can bring up that on the screen as well. There we have explore.qlik.com, which has a couple of different types of applications. So you can go into that, and if you log on to the page with your Qlik account, There are some of those apps that you can download as well and import to your own environment to look at them. You'll see that there you can filter the applications on the left side by experience. There we've tried to build applications mimicking different levels of complexity on visualizations. You can also see if it's a Qlik application or a mashup, for example. A mashup then being using Qlik data, but then using web application to show that data. And if you go to filter by tags, there's it's just below there. There's something there that says downloadable, and that's where you can find the applications that you can download and import into your own environment if you want to look exactly on how the configurations of the visualizations are done. Just note that you have to be logged on to the site to be able to download those specific applications.
These are great. Thank you. All right. Next question, and so far it's the last question that's been submitted. So if you have any more questions, go ahead and send them in. What is the optimal size of a data set in QAC for profiling and data quality? I was told it's 5 gigabytes, but I'm noticing that even when I shrank the data set and removed fields using table recipe and QVD compression, the QAC is having trouble to profile and perform data quality on large data sets. So looking for an optimal size, but I know just off the top, if you're having sizing issues, you can always reach out to your account manager and get a subscription with a larger size. But do you guys have any tips?
I mean, it kind of goes in if there is a recommendation that it's 5 gigabytes and you're noticing performance issues when doing that or long load times, then the problem might be in the data modeling with some of the optimization tips that we talked about so far. Maybe looking at restructuring the application, the data model of the application, or working with aggregated fields or with fields, predefined fields in the data model. The more you can do in the script editor, the more calculations you can do that, the faster the application is going to be when you start doing real-time aggregations inside of Qlik.
Yeah, all those tips make sense. Thanks. Next question. Is there a way to see all the app code in one place, including the expressions? Not quite sure what we mean by app code.
Yeah, well, you can actually export the entire application
I was thinking about that, the
into
versioning,
GitHub.
right?
Yeah, you can export it into GitHub using application automation. There's some predefined automations for that. And when you then look at them in GitHub, for example, you'll see both the code for which visualizations are used and how they're structured, but you can also see expressions and stuff like that inside of the application. I don't know, Patrick, if you have another.
Not that I can think of right now.
No, but I think that's a good way to say. And what you're doing when you're exporting the metadata of the application to exporting that to GitHub. I'm taking a qualified guess that you could probably export that data in other places than GitHub as well. But look at the application automation and the predefined automation or or exporting to GitHub.
Great. Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. A next question. We are in the process of migrating to cloud. Currently, we're publishing QlikView apps in the cloud and are seeing these apps tend to take a long time to load. Any tips on speeding this up? And I'm not sure what they mean. If they're publishing from on-prem to the cloud, I'm guessing that just means opening time is what they mean by load, but it's hard to say.
Yeah. I mean, during the migration phase, of course, you need to import the QlikView applications into the cloud. But looking at the long-term solution, I would say rebuild the applications. using because I mean, although the data model is the same, there's a lot that's happened since the QlikView days when it comes to how we visualize the data for the end users. So I'd say start with just getting all the data into the cloud, and then after that you can start looking at rebuilding applications.
Yeah, and it's been on the shelf for a little while, but it's still very applicable. We did a Techspert talk about how to migrate QlikView to QlikCloud, and we talk about all the tools that are available to make that process easier and what's involved. And it's exactly like you said. It's really first getting it into a Sense app and then migrating it to cloud. But please check out that. And there's also tools for migrating from ClickSense on-prem to make it very easy to go to QlikCloud now. So there's a lot of tools that are available for you. All right, next question. How can we automatically translate the dashboard according to the language setting of the person opening the spreadsheet? I'm sure this comes up a lot. I've heard this type of question before. I can't remember the answer at the moment.
I
There,
mean,
sorry, do you want to take it, Patrick?
no, you can go first.
All right. So the language setting of the Qlik itself reads from the web browser. So it's going to go after the language that you have in the web browser. What you can do and what has been done before is when you translate the actual data itself in the data model, you can build a translation table where you manually input all of the data and translations of the data in a table inside of the data model, and then you have a language picker. So that can pick the language, and then it'll translate the name of your products from different languages, for example.
That's great. Well, that's the last question we've had submitted so far.
We got
Community?
a few more minutes. I can show you things that went live today that are both in the release notes and soon going to be available
Oh,
on cloud. People are
exciting.
happy.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
let you share.
I share my screen and let's jump over to release notes. So in the release notes that so far have appeared today, we have some straight table because yeah, we've been talking about a lot about straight table in this meeting or this webinar. So we added quick sort, search, and cyclic dimension change to the table based on feedback that this was something that felt better in the old table compared to the straight table. So if you go into an app right now, and if you create a new straight table, so let me just jump to a new sheet and let me just create a new straight table. You're going to get this setting by default. So add a straight table in here. Let's populate it with a couple of dimensions. Let's populate it with a couple of measures. Let's go out of edit mode. You can now see that the search icon is back. It's very big on my screen because I was told to zoom so that people were going to see it better. So the search icon is back. You can directly click here to search. Don't have to go into the menu here and click the search or selections. So directly searching in here. You can also directly sort it by clicking on the table column up here. So directly sorting, something that's been requested a lot. We also added so that if you have a cyclic dimension, you're gonna have a cyclic dimension icon up here, so you can cycle between the dimensions within that cyclic dimension. And for you who already have published straight tables, we're not gonna go in and change old straight tables because we don't like changing behavior overnight without you actually controlling when that change happens. So if you have a straight table that's you already created, if you have people, users, customers that are complaining that where is the search button, where is the sorting button, you can just go in here and you can make certain that you're going to have increased accessibility turned on by default in the old straight tables. New ones are not going to have it. So in the old table, you can just uncheck increase accessibility. I'm going to show this is what it looks like for people with current straight tables. But if you go in here and if you uncheck increase accessibility, because the main reason we did that was to make it easier to have accessibility in table, But if you uncheck it, then you get this old behavior back of sorting and searching directly. So this is something going live right now on cloud. It's going to come then in the next on-prem release. I can't say if it's available in all the regions yet. I know we're doing regional rollouts, so some regions are going to get it before others. That's why you might see it on LinkedIn that people are posting about it being live. But it should be within you on cloud either now or in the next coming days. So that's one of the new features available. Another, but I can't find the release notes for it yet, so that means it's really early rollout, is that we've added some um, features to the bar chart. So if you've done a bar chart before, and if you use the continuous axis here, you can see that it's really thin bars. There's technical reasons behind it, but it hasn't really been that appreciated, that when you go from not using continuous and you have a scroll bar here to clicking continuous, everything looks really thin. So we have added on bar chart now an option down here for period. If you have an old bar chart, it's going to be set to none. The same thing here. We don't want to make changes to an existing sheet for users who have done it in a certain way. But if you go in here, you can specify what type of granularity is your data in. So in this case, I've added a field that's on a monthly basis. So I go in here and I pick months, and then you can see that the bars are better width when it comes to the size of them. If you have, for example, using the right fields, and if you use the auto calendar, then you don't actually have to set anything in here. You're just going into auto, and we will look at the tags being used of the auto calendar. In this case, it's tagged month, $ month on it. And then we will actually make the size month. And if you're not using the auto calendar, you can still tag your fields with month, year, day, week, etc. And then on the setting auto, which is the standard for newly created charts, we will try to find the appropriate size of the bars. Now, if you have data that is, for example, not matching one of our periods in here, like for example, let's say you have quarters, then you can go in here and say, I have months, but I have a step size of 3, meaning that for every 3 months, I get a new quarter. So I don't have that data in here, but if I had quarters, this would represent the same thing. Same thing is, for example, if you have bi-weekly data, you could just go in here and say, my data is on a weekly level, but it's something that happens every other week. And then you would have the width of 2 weeks on the bar. Or for example, this case, 4 weeks is almost a month. So if I go in here and put 4 weeks in here, it's going to be the same width as month. So this is something that I believe is rolling out right now. Might be available on your Qlik Cloud tenant or might be coming very soon. So 2 usability improvements that have been asked a lot when it comes to on ideation and with other meetings with customers and users.
Yeah, those are
So
awesome.
that's the first Christmas present.
That's great. Thank you so much, Patrick. Thank you so much to Patrick and Ola. Thank you all for the wonderful questions submitted today. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.